Hey watercolor wizards, Hajra here, and today we'll be doing some little watercolor miniatures. So these are going to be ink and wash, and actually they are more like watercolor and gouache, but I am going to make it so that, you know, I call them watercolor minis because my assumption was that people probably wouldn't understand what that meant. I'm trying to just fix the light here. Okay, so alright, I think the screen is hopefully on by now. Show the brushes I'll be using today. So I'm just going to be using these brushes right here, this angle brush and two rounds, and all three of these are nylon brushes. None of these are sable hair or squirrel hair or anything that's natural. And before I actually get going on it's nice to see you here, Heather. Thanks for joining me. And I hope everybody is at home safe and staying healthy. And if you're having a cup of tea like I am, let's see if I can get my cup of tea underneath there. I've got a nice big cup of tea, and it's fennel and licorice and marshmallow, slippery elm, and a little bit of black tea. So it's nice for your throat, and that's a nice thing to have, especially if you're trying to keep your throat from getting irritated, and it will actually help you from getting the flu or cold. Have a nice sip of that tea there. And put it aside, and just make sure you don't accidentally dip your watercolor brush into it. I have done that before in the past, so if you're gonna be drinking tea, just make sure you keep it on the other side of where your water cup is and not on the same side. And I wanted to quickly mention real quick that I do have a color theory class showing up, and it's going to be tomorrow morning from 12 to 3. So if you can join me there, that'll be really exciting. I've got a huge stack of slides and information and all sorts of stuff to share for that class tomorrow, and it's really exciting, and oh, so much information that I have here that I'm going to be sharing in that color theory class tomorrow. So I'm going to move that aside now, and I wanted to make sure to let you know that it's a 3-hour class if you do join it, and it's let's see, it's going to be $35, and you would get to keep the video at the end and also get my input via email and also have that 3-hour class with Q&A live. So it's a pretty good bargain for that kind of stuff online. In fact, I am going to do one color wheel on this stream, and I'm just going to do that because this is part of the class tomorrow, but it's one of the ones that I wanted to prep in advance so you guys get to see it for free. And this is going to be a warm, cool primary triad, and I'm going to explain the significance of that in more detail tomorrow. But basically, if you have warm, cool primaries, then you end up having cleaner mixes around certain sides of the wheel. So if you can possibly have a set that has warm, cool primaries, then that's actually very helpful. So in this case, I've got a class here, and by the way, for the moderators that I assigned, and also for anybody else who's taking the class that might be watching this feed, I'm going to be sending that link out to you at 11:30, so it's not going to start formally till 12 noon, but I am going to send those out early, half an hour, so just in case some people have any difficulty getting on. So, so here's my color wheel here, and let me try to move this a little bit over into the light. Seems like I'm having a little ding. It's sort of getting closer to the evening here, so we have a little bit of light issue. So this is my Schminke tin, and it's my travel tin. I actually had enough colors that I could make my own travel tin, but you can buy these same colors in the size set of this size from Schminke. And I guess I can't say Schminke anymore. It's not German. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That's 12. 12 colors. Comments. Yeah, so what are the comments?
Cher says, "Oh my heavens, I've done that so many times."
With the tea? Yeah, I've done that too.
Heather says, "I believe Air will be taking your Faces class," which I don't know what that means. Maybe she can repost it.
The drawing one? She's probably taking the drawing. Here. Yay, Kat's here. Awesome. So, and I'm so happy that a few of you guys are going to be taking those classes. It's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of information, and enough that you can watch it over and over again, and hopefully learn something new every time, because, you know, when you rewatch information, it actually is useful. It sinks in different ways. Yeah, so I think Heather's going to be taking the Draw Anything 5 Ways, the facial features one. So I'm really excited about seeing her there. Okay, so here's my Schminke tin colors, and you can see that there is a warm and cool of each primary here. So here's a warmer yellow that's more towards the orange side of the wheel, a cooler yellow that's more towards the greenish side of the wheel, and also a warm and cool red. Here's a warmer red, the cadmium, that's closer to red-orange, and also a permanent carmine that is closer to the violet, pinker you know, colder side. And so you end up having warm and cool of those two colors. And if you're lucky, if you have a set like this, you might also have a Prussian blue. I think this is actually supposed to be ultramarine and not ultramarine violet. But since I was using my own colors and not buying the set, I actually had an ultramarine violet, which actually I like better because it's even closer to purple or violet formally. So I have then a warmer blue, which is this blue violet, and then a colder blue more towards the green. So yeah, the only thing Kat needs to know, and she's taking that tomorrow. Background noise. That is that I'm going to be sending those links out half an hour early. So just be prepped for that and be ready to sort of, you know, get that link half an hour early. And maybe help a few other people to get on if they're confused. But anyway, so I wanted to do is swatch this actual wheel on. Do you have any idea why this is so dark here? I'm trying to figure out what the situation is with this. Is it because oh, okay. I think it's because if I put the tin in. Okay. So if the sound is fading in and out, it might be the streaming.
Probably you turning away from the phone over and over again.
Okay. Or it might just be the buffering, but I mean, I doubt this late there's going to be a huge amount of people on, but so I'm just trying to figure out why the screen is also sort of going lighter and darker a few times. Does that look okay? Okay. All right, so I'm going to start by just doing this because I said this was the one I'm going to do ahead of time before I actually get onto the thing. And you can answer that question for about the class while I'm mixing this yellow. I think there's a question about that. So here's the lemon yellow, and I'm going to go ahead and take my cooler yellow and put it onto the cooler side. And then take my warmer yellow. And you would get to keep the video for private. It's going to be a private video link that I'll edit down that you'll have access to. Okay, so they're saying once you introduce the wood plank, what are these? I'm trying to see if I can average that out to, I think if you can just give me a white piece of paper then. Well, no, I have lots of white pieces of paper, so I can actually get a white piece of paper if you open that down there. Yep. And then just at the very bottom there might be paper down there. I was using a bigger piece of paper last time. I think that's why it was Okay, I just do that, but I just want it to be better lit, so if it can be, if that's good advice, and that way I also know that for like future stuff. Okay, so I'll just take that piece of paper, and let's put this under here. So I've already got all my lights on, so I think the best thing to do is just to do that, and maybe that'll help with that. I think that helps. Does it help? Okay, so, all right, I've got that. Got a warm and cool yellow, and I'm going to come over to the red side and then do my warmer red. That's going to be closer to the yellow, so you're going to put it on this side. So when you have split primaries, then you want to do your warmer colors closer to each other and your cooler colors closer to each other. So in that sense, this one would be on that side, which is closer to the yellow. On this side, it's going to be getting closer to the blue, so that's how you know which side to mix that warm and cool on. And again, I'm using these right out of that travel set. There is a separate video for this Schminke tin that I put together in 2018, so you can go and look at that. But you basically have those colors there, and you don't have to use all of them every time, but if you know how to use split primaries, that's good because you get cleaner mixes for your secondaries, is what it basically helps you with. And so now I'm going to do the same thing for the blue. And I believe this one, let's hope this is the Prussian. Yep, that's the Prussian. And I'm also going to turn this up. I think I actually, there we go, added more light, and that should help too. Okay. Do we have any more questions?
Kat wants to know, do you always start with yellow?
I always start with yellow at the top because to me it reminds me of yellow is like the sun, so I always put it at the top of my color wheel, and it's a nice little anchor point. But you definitely do not have to start with that. And it looks like I ultramarine violet. That's okay. This is Bristol cardstock, so that can mostly sweep right up. And I'm going to come back in with my more purple blue and put it down right there. So sitting right next to each other like that, it's more obvious that, you know, one of them is a more purple blue and one of them is a more greener blue. And it's going to be harder to tell if it's greener sometimes. It's easier to tell when it's got more purple in it. So just put it next to something that does have more purple in it, and that way you can see which one is warmer with the more purple or cooler with the more green. And because blue is one of those colors that's harder to weigh that with. So now that you have those split primaries, you'd basically mix, you know, along this side to get your orange, along this side to get your violet, and along this side to get your green and the tertiaries in between them. And the benefit of having 2 yellows and 2 reds and 2 blues and all of them with a warm, cool temperature bias is that it actually helps you have cleaner secondaries, right? So if I just had a cool yellow and I mixed it with, say, this red down here, it would give me a nice orange, but not as nice if I had a yellow that already had a little bit of a hint of an orange in it by being warmer. And so that's how that helps you. It may not seem like a huge difference, but you'll see it if you mix a wheel with the lower intensity orange and then another wheel with the brighter orange, you'll see that there is a difference. So, and just to show that to you real quick, because I could do it on the back of some paper right here, and I'll do that once we get to the... It's funny, you can see the little angry doodle showing up in the back over there. I'll have to explain those doodles. There's a story behind those doodles. That's why I decided to do a surprise live stream, because I had those easy doodles around. So I'm going to try to mix this orange here. So what I'm going to do is now have this cadmium, and I'm just going to put a little bit of it down right here. So essentially use this as my palette to mix. You probably don't have to do that, obviously, but I'm doing that so you can sort of see what I'm doing here. So I'm getting this, and it's going to make me an orange. And then if you put a little bit of it here, red to it, it'll become a red-orange on this side. And if I add more yellow to it, it'll become a yellow-orange on this side. And so therefore I have my primaries, my secondary, which is orange, and then my tertiaries, which are the yellow-orange and red-orange. Okay, so that's a nice, really clean, you know, looking set of colors over there. Now, had I gone for the alizarin crimson and used that to make my orange instead with, say, the cooler yellow, how would that have looked in comparison? Well, I can go ahead and put in that alizarin crimson right there, and then the cooler yellow over here, and it gives me a nice orange. It's a very mellow, pretty orange, but it's not as vibrant, and of course I'm not really putting it on, it's not on the same paper. Putting it on different paper is also going to make a difference, but you can see that this orange is just a touch more dull. This is actually a very primary clean orange, and this one already has like a touch of pinkish tone to it. It's actually closer to more like a peachish flesh tone, where this is proper orange. And so that's the difference. You know, it's not a huge difference, but it does make a difference if you're going to really want really bright, really singing, vibrant secondaries. And sometimes it'll make a huge difference depending on the color you have, because this travel tin actually has clean colors all the way around. You might actually have something that's very yellow ochre in color on this side, like an Indian yellow, and you might have something that's very greenish yellow, you know, on this side, in which case you'd end up with a really muddy looking orange. And so that's where it makes a big difference. Okay, so let's continue to do the bottom right here. And on this side,
you have a couple of comments.
Mm-hmm.
Cher says, okay, thanks, I might check it out. I need lessons in color theory badly. For some reason, I just understand some of it. I know the basics, and that's about it. And Kat says, is your theory class going to explain midtones and the like? She's referring to your midtone method.
Oh, the midtone method? Well, that's actually more a painting method, so you'll probably experience that in the Grisaille class. So that's going to be where that's covered. But we are going to cover high chroma and low chroma colors, saturated and not saturated, how to make tints and tones. And so maybe she's talking about tints, tones, and shades and all of that stuff. We're going to be covering all of that. We're also going to be covering a lot of different color relationships and color theory and color science and how that works and how that lets you choose mood, you know, ambient, rich color, you know, palettes for your paintings. So we're going to be doing all of that. Okay, so I started here, and now I'm going to use the cooler red because it's closer to the purple, and I want a very, very clean purple, which means I'll choose a red that already has some purple in it, which is the cooler alizarin crimson, okay? And then after that, in this case, this is a permanent carmine, but alizarin crimson will work just as well over there. And I'm going to go ahead and use my more purple blue and put that in over here, and that'll give me, let's see, this is going to be a red violet, a violet, and a blue violet. So obviously I need to add in more on this side to make it quite a dark blue violet, slightly more over here to make it a purple, and just a touch over here to make it more red violet. And you can see you can get it quite a nice mix depending on the ratios that you put it down at. And I'm going to add even more of that there. And then you can see the differences in the colors. And it's quite dark when you do blue and purple, so in order to see the identity, you might want to water it down. And that way you see the identity a little bit better.
So Random McRanderson says Grisaille underpainting?
Yeah, we're going to be doing Grisaille value underpainting, and
as a separate class.
Has a separate class, yep. And that's going to be the weekend after this weekend. So not this Saturday, but the next Saturday. I think you have the 3 dates. Kat has it in an email too. So Kat,
I posted the
and
the link to
you
the
can,
classes.
but if Kat has that email, then Kat can also, and please post that in the comment section. That would be very useful to people.
Sure.
So those are the colors on that side. And finally, we're going to go up to the greens to mix that. And again, I would use my cooler yellow that has more green in it to begin with, and put that in with my cooler blue that has more green in it, and that would give me the cleanest green, okay? And of course, this comes with 2 greens, so you can use those 2 greens if you're, in a hurry, or if you don't have a limitation on the amount of colors you're pulling out. But if you want to have a limited palette where you don't have any strident colors or don't have too many, actual colors out of your box, and so you're not, because I always say to limit it to 6 colors max, so this way you end up having 6 colors maximum. And if you have some green in there, it doesn't accidentally look too strident if you end up having a nice green in your painting. Sometimes people say, well, this green just doesn't match, and one of the reasons that can happen is if all the other colors don't match with it at all. So this is a very nice clean blue. This is that Prussian blue, and I'm gonna go ahead and move it further here. I like to dab it into all of my sections while I have it in my brush, waste not, want not type of thing. But you can go ahead and now add the yellow to that. So that's the lemon yellow, and I'm going to add the most of that to the yellow-green area, slightly less to that area, and then even less to that one. And right now they're sort of gone into at the same amount, but I'm going to go and vary that. So again, even more for this one to make it a really nice yellow-green. And then let's see, for this one, slightly more blue to make it a nice, healthy mid-green. You can actually even add more yellow to the one on the left here and make it even more yellow-green. Really give it a proper May-green color. And then the one on the very right here, you can add a bit more blue to, and that'll give you a forest green right now. So depending on how you want to take it, you can make that your green color and add even more blue here to make it almost a teal color right here, and then just a bit more here to make this a mid of the way green.
Kat says, yep, I have a hard time seeing warm blues.
Yeah, well, the best thing to compare to warm blues is just pull out a green and a purple, and then compare your swatches of blue to see, with the blue, with the green and the purple next to it, so you can see which one has more green or more purple in it, because otherwise it just becomes kind of a hopeless task, unfortunately, because the blues can tend to trick us a bit more. So those are those colors right there, and I'm gonna go ahead and put this aside, but again, we'll be doing 3 hours of amazing and fun color theory tomorrow. Does anybody have any questions about that color wheel before we tuck this away?
I'm also asking in the chat if anyone has any guesses as to what those...
Oh, it's the
menus
shadow
are.
of this phone. That's what's on here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Okay, go ahead. Do they have any questions?
No, there's no questions on here.
No questions?
No.
Okay. All right, so I guess we'll just continue on with these little minis then. Okay, so so my sister is a doctor, and I'm very happy that she's a doctor because she's helping people even right now, working full time throughout the whole Corona thing. But what's fun and interesting about it is that she's a really goofy person, and so she does cute things. And I thought it'd be nice to make her some magnets. So I'm gonna actually paint these and then cut them out and put them on into little wood blanks and then varnish them and put little magnets behind them for her fridge. But I decided to make 4 little doodles of her. So there's her little doctor's coat that has MD written on it, because I'm really proud of the fact that my sister's a doctor right now, saving people's lives and working full time, even throughout the whole coronavirus thing. And she likes to eat her apples with peanut butter. So she just even has a jar of peanut butter in an apple with her and from home, and then she puts peanut butter on her apples and eats them that way. So I always just thought that was really cute. And so I've got her little iPhone here, and she's got hair like, it's kind of like Farrah Fawcett hair. So I've always, I always draw it like that's like these little looser layers that go down to there. And I actually put a knife in her pocket with peanut butter on it. I don't know like if it'll look like it's gross if we color it, because nobody will know it's peanut butter. But I decided to stick that into her little pocket there, and then she's got her little iPad and her apple that she's going to eat on her break from helping patients. And then she also wears a lot of velour jogging suits. Like, how those were really popular when we were in college, and they're actually not as popular anymore. They've kind of become a bit passé, but she still wears her jogging suits, and the one I've always seen her wearing is her pink jogging suit. So this is her working up a sweat, wearing her pink jogging suit. And the inspiration to do them in this style was I wanted to do sort of a Mary Blair type style thing, but I wanted to make it a little bit more realistic. So it's kind of inspired by Mary Blair, some of the poses and stuff like that, but it's also, just a little cartoony doodle. And also my sister likes to garden. So she's doing a little bit of gardening here on the weekends, where she pulls out her weeds and does flowers. And so I sort of dressed her up almost like in a little farmer's outfit. And there's just all really stuff. And also my sister, despite being a really nice person that helps a lot of people and patients, she's a really angry driver. So if you ever talk to her and she's driving home, she has a lot of road rage for people who aren't driving well. And I guess I would too. I haven't driven in a lot of years because my hands hurt too much, so I can't, because of my hand pain, drive. And so as a result of that, I guess I'm sort of spared that. But Fatima, my sister, whenever you talk to her on the phone and she's driving home, she'll have these like periods where you're talking to her in normal conversation, and suddenly there will be like road rage and cursing. And she has a Beetle, a Volkswagen Beetle. So I decided to put her in her little bug right there, and she's in that. So those are the 4 miniature paintings that I'm going to do, and then stick these onto wood blanks and then make them into magnets and send them to her as a gift to thank her for the fact that she's a doctor at this time and doing. Get a bit more traction on that, hopefully, just so we can see a little bit more of the actual palette and everything. And I'm not going to be using these paints anymore, but I will be using, I'll put them aside. Okay, so I guess I should ask for a vote. Should I use my Inktense or should I use my gouache to paint these?
Lamp says, "Hi Hajra, love your live stream. Looking so forward to value study next week."
Oh yeah, we're going to be doing a nice realistic, either a botanical or some kind of a bird or animal. I haven't decided. It's gonna depend on how many students I get, because I'm gonna try to taper it to something that I think everybody can do. So I'm gonna try to figure out what it is that I think is the best idea to do for the live stream. But okay, so Kat's saying.
Repeat your request for the vote.
Okay, so my vote. The question is, should I be doing this in Inktense or should I be doing this in gouache? And we did the coloring book page in gouache, so maybe people are a little bit they've already gotten their gouache fix over the last 2 streams, so I'm wondering if we want to do this in Inktense or gouache. So Kat says Inktense, I'm sure.
Kat says Inktense twice.
Oh wow. Okay. Are there any other votes?
Why don't you tell people about what would be the difference?
What's the difference? Okay. So the Inktense versus gouache. So the gouache is basically an opaque watercolor, and we have that out here, and it would basically looks like a velvety, matte, opaque watercolor. And the Inktense, you can give me the tin for that. It's in that drawer, the next drawer down. Yep, open that, and then that one of those tins. Yep, just give me that, and I'll put this up here, and here, put this back over there so it doesn't fall. I want to have everything out at the same time. Okay, so it's actually the other box. So open the other box up. Yep, just give me that. Okay, so I've got my polar bear tin with my Inktense. And
so far you have 2 votes for Inktense and 1 vote for gouache.
Okay.
So 3 votes for Inktense.
Okay, so
Multiple votes do not count, Kat or Heather. Something.
No, I think multiple votes from students taking the class might just count. So I think if they're students taking the classes, I might count their vote twice. There's definitely partisanship showing up here.
That's
okay.
corrupt.
Okay, so I get another.
You got another vote for Inktense. So I guess the majority has it. The
Okay.
mob demands Inktense.
Okay, all right. So we've got Inktense. So let's see if I can fit this in just the right there. So while we're painting this, and I will move those along, and if it doesn't, let me see if I can move it off the computer so it's not leaking quite right onto my computer. You know, because this is how I like to work.
Lillian says, thanks for
dangerously.
always answering my many questions and encouraging my creativity.
Oh, well, I'd be happy to do that for everybody who watches, and especially for the people who really appreciate it. Okay, so let's see. Got this, and this is a fun, like I said, fun and easy, so this is not really going to be some kind of endeavor, but if you're doing something on your own at home and it's fun, then this is the time to do it. And also if you have any questions for me regarding the upcoming streams or anything that you wanted to ask me before in the past regarding watercolor, gouache, or ink, or Inktense, then, you know, we can talk about that right now, or you can just watch me paint these and we can have a little bit of relaxing fun. And remember what I said about having some hot tea, it's really good for you. Keep it away from your watercolor water. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do now, you know I have separate brushes for the Inktense, so those are the ones I had out except for this one, so I can actually still use this one too. I think I'm okay with that one being Inktense. I'll move my pencil aside. I already inked these up. It took me like maybe an hour to draw those and ink them up, mostly because I had to think of the different scenarios. You know, we wanted to have her being angry in the car and all that stuff, and then the gardener, and then the jogging suit, and then the little peanut butter eating doctor. And again, I just want to thank my sister, who is a doctor and is working full-time and putting herself at high risk by helping all those patients. So that's why I wanted to make these little magnets of her doing.
Oh, I don't know. Why don't you ask them?
Okay, so which one should I paint first? Angry Road Rage Fatima, Gardener Fatima, Velour Jogging Suit Fatima, or Peanut Butter and Apple Eating at the Clinic Doctor Fatima?
Which one is your favorite?
Which one's my favorite? I'm not going to give that away right now. I don't think I have a favorite right now.
Heather votes for Road Rage.
Road Rage. That's so funny.
I think everybody else is just happy to be alive.
Okay. Well, if anybody doesn't say anything else, I'm just going to go right to...
We'll tally up the votes for whatever you paint next. And why don't you start with Road Rage?
Yeah, I'll start with the Road Rage.
It's easy because the car is white.
Right, it is easy. And what I'm going to do is, she has a white beetle bug, so I think she calls it her beetle bug. And so I think what I'm going to do now is take that blue that's right here and maybe add a little bit of shadow to the back there. I think the last time I used these Inktense was when I had that toucan, right? When we did that toucan in a gouache style. I'm trying to figure out also if I want to paint this in a watercolor style or a gouache style. So these hubcaps are back there. I'm not going to be too careful about staying in the lines because I'm actually going to color in the background later with some mica paint to make it a more special background, so like a metallic background, which is what I like to do for something that I'm doing as like a little magnet or ornament or something like that. And also, Inktense is permanent when it dries, so try to make sure you follow this across with a wet brush before it dries, otherwise you won't get a soft edge. You'll have whatever edge you put down the first time. It's going to dry as is. You can't fix it like watercolor or gouache. It's going to be like acrylic. It sets where it goes, you know? So it dries waterproof, which is a positive in some ways and a negative in other ways. And again, I'm going to cut the circles out too, so I don't really care about coming out of the circles over there either.
Kat wants to know what paper you're using.
This is Strathmore mixed media paper, and I'm using it because it's a thinner paper than the arches, so it'll actually... called. By the way, I'm going to pull some of this white out. I'm going to put it on the palette in the corner, and this is this Copic opaque white, and I'm going to be using that as a gouache white for this, just like I did last time. I think my decision is I do want to make this a little bit more opaque because I think it would make the car look super shiny. So I'm going to take a white line down the center there. And so you want to keep that part nice and shiny and white, and then have that blue showing up around the edge there. The same type of gradient blending that we do with watercolor and gouache, except for now we're doing it with the Inktense.
Kat said, so it will actually what?
So we'll actually what? So once we reconnect, it usually goes better. Okay, so
Everyone lost their sound, so they did not hear what you said about paper.
So this is mixed, I'll repeat that part of it. This is mixed media Strathmore paper, and I'm using it because it's a thinner pound. It's lighter pound, so it's actually, I think, 90 pound, or it's at, I think it's 100 pound at most. So it's definitely lighter than the 140 pound watercolor paper that I use from Arches or Fabriano. So as a result of that, it'll stick, it'll glue down onto ornaments better. That I'm going to be, you know, turning all of these into refrigerator magnets and mounting them on bare wood. So as a result of that, I want it to be thinner paper. Thinner paper tends to glue down, just like when if you're doing decoupage, thinner paper works better. So you want to make sure it, you know, it glues down a bit easier if you're using thinner paper. And the other, was there another question?
I think so.
Okay, so just let me know if anybody has any other question.
They might not have heard you explaining your gradient.
Okay, yeah, so what I was saying is I'm just doing a gradient blend here, but I'm doing it with the gouache and the white gouache and the Inktense simultaneously. So instead of it being the water, I'm using the white of this, and I'm going to actually have to probably re-ink that car as a result. So I think I might do the rest of these transparently, because otherwise I'll have to re-ink all of them. And that is one of the downsides of doing an ink and wash with this, is that you will have to end up re-inking some of those lines that get covered up. But it's also nice though, because if this blue dries a little bit too hard, you know, like dark, I can go back and fix it because it's permanent, versus if I did this with in a watercolor style, it's so transparent that I wouldn't be able to lift it later, right? Because it's waterproof, so I couldn't actually go back and make it lighter if I wanted to, if I was doing that with Inktense. So I think, so here on the left is kind of more the effect I was going for. I think on the right, between the buffering and everything, it sort of lost a little bit of what I was doing. So we can try to do the same wheel again, where I put the white down, I put the blue down, and now while they're both still wet, I'm going to go around to that edge and blend that down. So see how it looks like more like a shadow on a white car, whereas on this side it looks actually more like a light blue car. And it would be fine if it did turn into a light blue car. My sister used to have a light blue car, but I want to make this one white, so I'll probably go back and change the wheel on that one to make it a bit lighter on the other side. So I'm just trying to give these little wheel wells a little bit of dimension there. And like I said, there's really no need to do that on all of this. You can paint it transparently for the rest of it, but I think for the car, it's kind of fun to do that. Okay, so do the same thing for the car around this area, which is, here's the door. So I'm trying to figure out, like, we have to sort of imagine this. Where would I want the highlight on this door? And so I'd probably just say, color the whole thing white, again, to give it sort of an opaque feel. You can go ahead and mix the white on your palette too, but I like to just do it like this because a highlight color. And obviously if I had a large area where I was doing that tint, I would go ahead and do it all on the palette. But in this case, I'm going to do it so that I can have the blue on one brush and the white on the other. I mean, I'm very much a multiple brushes person if I can use that. So I think I'd probably say that there might be a blue highlight going this way, across this, and then streaking around to this side, and then another one like that, and then that's probably it. Because again, we're not going to try to make this too much into a blue car, more like a white car with blue highlights. It's a bit tricky for an area this small, but we can always come back around. And it's also going to be tricky to varnish that because I think that's going to be not as waterproof. And I'm trying to think of if I wanted to down here. Yeah, I think the other, so the other option would have been, like, let's pretend we didn't have any white at all. The other option would have been, like, I was coming down here to really water down that blue. See how if I really water it down, it gives me a similar look. It's just that this one looks translucent and this one looks like it's very opaque. So this one has like a sheer veil stained glass look, and this one has a very pastel, velvety, matte, opaque look to it. So it depends on the kind of look that you're going for. So just choose it based off of that. And since we've already made the choice to be opaque, then I'm going to go ahead and make that opaque by just adding a little bit of that white right over it, and then coming back in and blending the blue over that. And again, you can do that as a mixture on your palette, but if it's such a small amount, then, you know, there's no harm in just doing it right there. You don't have to mix a giant tint of that if you have it right there. Go ahead and make this wheel a little bit lighter again. This one dried down a little bit darker because remember this was the wheel we were sort of buffering, extracted and stuff. It sort of got more blue than I wanted it. So it's still looking like a pretty light blue car, and I think one of the reasons is there's so little car showing that the shadows are very prominent. So, I mean, because I barely drew any car there because I didn't know how else to fit in fit in the actual car, so into this tiny little circle area here. So I also had to leave the door open, kind of like she's parked and done driving, but she's still road raging in her like driveway. So as long as that, you know, it'll make sense to her, but, you know, obviously she wouldn't be this angry if she's already parked and pulled over. At least I hope not. And so there we go, and we've got that part of it, a little bit of blue, and then a little bit of white. And if this had had a much bigger hood area, a much bigger rest of the area, then you'd be able to separate the shadows from the white a bit more, and it would read a little bit more as a white car. But as is, I'm putting in so much of the shadow there that it's almost reading as a light blue car anyway, so. I'm sticking to the story of when she asked me, hey, I have a white car. I'll say, yeah, I painted it white. She'll say, it looks blue. Oh, it's white. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and go up to that top and maybe try. I can always come back in and kill more of that blue if I really wanted to. And come back in and do the rest of that in that area.
Kat wants to know if you have both sets of Inktense.
Both sets? Oh, the travel? No, I only got the one with the pans, because I looked at the colors that they were showing with the pan Inktense, and even with the first pan set, it didn't feel all too novel to me, so I just thought to myself, okay, I'm not going to get another set that's, you know, that has a lot of the same colors I already have in the blocks. So to me it just felt like very much similar colors that I had in the blocks already. So as a result of that, I didn't get the new set. I don't know if they come out with a convenient to use, just like pans are always convenient to use because they're just sitting around, but I just don't want the same colors. It just seems kind of wasteful, so I didn't get that set. But I do have this one, and I've been digging into it quite a bit, and especially if I keep using it like gouache, I think it'll get used up even faster. So that's the seat, and I sort of had like the back part of the car. Let's pretend the interior of Fatima's car is also this pale blue, because I don't really know what her interior is, but let's just pretend it's this pale blue so we don't have to come up with another color to put behind her, because she's got black hair like I do. So if we put a dark color in there, like say she's got a smoky gray interior or something like that, then it's gonna not stand out. So we'll just use like artistic license to assume that the inside of that car is just a blue as well, but just barely. Okay, so I'm also gonna pretend her window is rolled down so we don't have to deal with that part of it disappearing. And if I can, I'm gonna try to put just the teeniest bit of dimension into that little car handle.
I think it's funny because you ended up making it look more like a smart car, which was always your dream car.
Yeah, I always thought if I could drive again, because like again I have pain problems so I don't, but I like the smart car idea because it's so tiny and very efficient. But on the other hand, when I saw that it's not, I mean, I think somebody said it wasn't very safe, but I'm not really sure how much of that is just, you know, speculation or whatever. Oh, I think I might have some, didn't my OCD peeps notice that I forgot to color that little mirror thingy? It's not been...
Nobody noticed, unless it's somebody's anime shoulder. Nobody will notice.
Yeah, yesterday, or last weekend, everybody noticed the skin that I was missing there on that piece, but... So coming back in and getting that. And again, instead of using water to blend, we're going to be using more paint. So this is gouache, so that way it works a little bit easier. Or we're using this Inktense as gouache, I should say. And there's just a teeny bit more, I think, if you look at where the steering wheel is, right there, a little bit more background color. That's the nice thing about opaque colors is you don't have to think about it too much. You can go ahead and change the color of it a bit. But I think that pretty much covers the inside of the car. That's the seat, and we'll give the seat a different color. And I think I'll pretend that she has, let's see, what kind of color seats would Fatima have? She likes pink, so let's just give her pink seats over there, or maybe purple, a very light purple. How's that? I sort of made it so that she was sitting a little bit further ahead from her seat too, so that she's that purple is reading more as a brown actually, and that's fine. I guess it's not such a big deal. I'm gonna wet this paper down first so that my blends go a little bit smoother. Because again, remember what I was saying, Inktense is a permanent medium, so you don't want it to actually dry on you, and wetting the paper down a little bit before you actually get started on those blends actually helps. I'm just trying to figure out where I'm even placing some of these shadows because I'm just sort of making them up. So I think I'll place some right there and just sort of wing it. Again, it's just a little cartoony doodle. You don't have to worry about it too much. Put a little bit behind there. Have that. And that's the reason I switched to purple versus pink, is this set doesn't have a pink. So I switched to purple, and it doesn't have a very clean purple either. I think that's the only purple it's got in this set, is this sort of like aubergine purple. And while it's a beautiful purple, it's kind of dumb that they didn't include, if they have all those other extra colors and we got like multiple greens and browns and stuff, they should have put a cleaner purple into this set. That's not very useful to just have a low intensity, dirtier purple that's like that. Okay, so going up a little bit higher. I think this is going to read well as a seat, though, because it makes it look more like, you know how a lot of people have those darker colored seats, so it sort of blends in as a seat color better than pink. Pink might have clashed too much. Plus, we're going to make her jogging suit pink. So maybe we didn't want to mix that up into everything. So I'll just have that as a seat. A little bit more of the seats showing right there. Easier to see in this tiny, tiny little painting. And I think the seat belt is usually like some kind of gray. So let's just make that a light gray if I can find one. I'm pretty sure I have some dried on this palette someplace. Yep. And I really am going to try to make that gray and not white before it dries. And so let's stretch that out and try to fade it down. And it's not really a reflective fabric, so there's no reason to give it much of a highlight. Now, if it was bigger, you could give it a higher shadow or a lower shadow, depending on how the fabric of the belt was catching the light. But for such a tiny doodle, you're not really going to have that kind of assistance. And by the way, a waterproof medium like this that doesn't resist watercolor or gouache when you're painting on top of that, like the Inktense, is really good for grisaille. But it's only good for grisaille if you can blend it while it's still wet. Because some people are like, well, shouldn't I use it for grisaille all the time? I was like, first of all, no. And the other answer to that is you've got staining watercolor that will work just as well. But plus, it just sets down so hard that it might actually be a hassle to deal with if you don't like it to set down permanently and you want to go and fix it later. Then unlike watercolor or gouache, you won't be able to fix it. So it's very dependent on your needs. You know, it's not an automatic solution to always reach for a permanent paint if it's an underpainting. Okay, I think I also have a, if you open this drawer right here, there's a white gel pen right here. It's right here. Yeah, and I'm going to get that for the highlight in her eyes because I don't have a sort of spotter out. Okay, so now I think that it's funny because now it just looks like she's a giant person in a little teeny car because she's all crowded in there. I think there's a little bit more seat over there. I kind of like the idea of little doodles and how proportions are all really off in them, with the head being giant and everything else. You know what it reminds me of? Does anybody remember Richard Scarry or Scarry from who did all those little doodles? I talked about him before, but if you were growing up and you little animals are, you know, anthropomorphic and driving around in little cars and living in buildings and everything like that. This is what this card reminds me of, that for sure. Okay, so I've got that, and yeah, I am going to use glittery paint in the background, mica paint, so I'll choose some nice colors for that, and different color for each background I think would be fun. And I think we should be able to get to that pretty quick. This is not going to be one of those 3-hour streams, because this should go pretty fast. Okay, so now I'm considering, let's see, is this black? Yeah, that's black, or that's the dark green. So that's the nice thing about having some scratch paper there, is you can just dab onto there. And I think I'm going to take some black and just put it right into her hair now. And again, this is going to be a bit trickier than if you were doing this watercolor or gouache, because you have to sort of follow the edge of this pretty fast and figure out where you want and the hard and soft edges to be. And also, I'm not going to try really hard with this to get the proper hair highlights. If they don't work, I'm going to come back in with the white later on and fix that. So I might just go and patch in, just for the sake of speed, the whole entire hairdo in black. I think I might just do that. That'll make it simpler instead of people watching me do the hair in like this tiny, exhausted way. If you want to see some hair that actually has better shadows in it, then watch one of the bigger paintings that I've done on the channel. But I'm definitely going to come back and add a few accents to this, because I don't want it to be that she's lost all of the little lines that I've put into the hair. So I don't want it to be like exactly the same black all the way around, so I'll water it down a bit. But when it comes to the highlights, I will definitely come back and do those later. Sometimes for a smaller piece, you have to weigh that. You have to weigh your options of, like, you know, do you have highlights that are added on later, additive highlights, or subtractive highlights? And in a case like this where it's so tiny, sometimes it's just not even worth it to do additive highlights are the best way to go. So it's better not to have the subtractive ones where you're working on, am I going to work around that, or am I going to just come back in and add it later? Well, for something that's small, adding it in later, there's nothing wrong with that. It's probably the smarter idea. You can definitely work around it, but if you're only trying to prove that to yourself, then that's, you know, it only goes so far. Once you've proven to yourself that you can paint really tiny, there's no reason to do that over and over again for absurd tiny little things like that, you know? Alright, so I'm assuming that that's where her hair would over. And I erased a little bit too much on this paper before I started, because I was trying to figure out what to do exactly with her expression before I settled on that. And so it's got a little bit of a muddiness to that part of the paper. So that's what will happen if you over erase on your paper, which is why I always tell people to try to draw on a separate piece of paper. Okay, so I've got that. And let's see. She wears jeans a lot, so she also wears slacks, so there's also black in there, so I'm not going to make it black again. These are jeans, so maybe I'll give her a different color pants there. I'm trying to figure out what kind of colors Fatima likes. I think a nice green would be a nice color, but I think orange, because it's complementary to blue, would also be a nice choice. So maybe I'll give her an orange pair of pants, and then I'm trying to think what would be a nice neutral, you know, something for, and I'm going to make this very gouache-like. Again, we're going for that Mary Blair effect that you saw in maybe those old Disney concept art pieces, and it's very relaxing. Again, not everything has to be like this gigantic, super realistic thing. You don't have to totally tear yourself up over stuff like that constantly. And I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow to that, and I think I'm just going to use the brown for that. Is this my brown? Nope, that's my purple. Is this my brown? Yep, that's my brown. So let's get a little bit of, that's a little bit too dark. Even for such a tiny area, even if you're doing it in a gouache-like style, it can become very dark very fast. And the nice thing about it being waterproof is it doesn't lift when you come back and do it thicker, as long as you sort of pay attention to what you're doing there. And I'm not going to give her another shadow on the other side. I think I'm just going to blend towards it.
Kat says she loves Mary Blair.
Yeah, Mary Blair is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. Okay. And I think the shirt should be, what color can I make that shirt? Got some leftover green on this palette, so maybe I can make it this sort of turquoisey leftover green. It's more like a racing forest green. I think that's what was left over. And again, you can leave a highlight down the center here of the sleeve. Like, you know, I didn't do that, but you can. And I'm looking to make these more, like I said, clean, flat, simple pieces. But what you could do, if you wanted to add that in, just to give you an example, is you come in with the white while it's still wet and put a little highlight down in the areas where you want it to be lighter, and then smooth at it with the rinsed off nearly dry brush. And then you end up with something of a highlight, and you'd have to make sure that you know, did it a few times over. But it would make it a little bit bigger. Should I move this even closer to it? Is this not a very good view of it? Should I move? Okay, alright. Because I always feel like I'm either too far away or too close to something. Okay, alright, so I've got that, and she looks like such an angry little big-headed driver inside of that car. That's obviously too small. Maybe she's angry because she can't sit up straight. Alright, so let's see. I think this ochre would be a nice skin tone. And go ahead and have a brush here to blend away. I've got 2 rounds here, so you don't have to always have a flat. I know I love flats, but you don't always have to have that. So I'll add the shadow side on the bottom, actually, and then go towards the blend on the top. Now I feel like it makes it look like it's too close to the color of her skin down there. I'm gonna have to change the color of those pants, because with the brown in it, those pants ended up looking nice. She looks like she's driving in a swimming suit, doesn't she? So let's see, what's a nice color that I could put over that? I guess I could make it into more of a red. It makes it look like she's wearing red pants instead. Because my fear for that is that it'll just end up looking like she's wearing the same color on the top and the bottom. Let's see, make that all red. Probably make it a bright red first and then come back in with the... But something you can do, because this is waterproof. If this wasn't waterproof, I couldn't do this as easily. I'd have to lift it up and then try again with the paper once it was lifted out, you know, and sort of patted dry. Not such a big deal. We do that all the time with watercolor and gouache, but in this one you can sort of skip that step, because even if you tried to do it, it wouldn't really work. That's nice. I actually like the red pants. And now if I add a little bit of the purple shadow to those pants, it'll harmonize with the seat a bit more too. So that way, if it's not the complement to the blue, at least we can harmonize it with the car a bit more. So let's add a little bit of that. This purple is a really nice shadow color. See how it goes almost immediately to this super dark color here? Again, I used it on that toucan, and it was just a lovely shadow color for that toucan I did in gouache for Halloween last year, around Halloween. Okay, so I think that works better. I mean, the important thing here is clarity, right? So this is such a small piece, you want clarity. I've got a lot of, got a really wet towel over there for some reason, even though I haven't even done that much painting. I guess it's because I keep switching colors. Okay, so let's give her a even wash over her face for this first. And that's waterproof micron that I did over there. You do not want to be painting with any kind of wet media over a marker that's not waterproof. If you're doing that, then that's you're gonna learn the hard way that that's not a good idea, because your lines are gonna smear and bleed. So this is a waterproof marker. And the ones that I have that are waterproof are I think the Sigma, I think it's Micron Sigma Sensei, and also the Zig Writer. Those are the ones that I have that are all waterproof. And you can also just have a nice waterproof liquid ink, like the Speedball or the Bombay inks from Bill Martin's or something, so that you have that. Okay, so I've got all that, and I think I can make that, give it a little bit more of a shadow. I'm trying to find the purple. The purple again is a nice skin shadow color too. And so I can go ahead and add a little bit of shadow. This is going to be a little bit of a trick to make sure we don't overdo it, but a little bit of a shadow up there. And then try to blend that out and turn it into the proper shape before it dries. Now Fatima's not an eyeshadow type of person, but it adds a little bit of fun there. And just to make it, because it's so tiny, just to give it some kind of oomph. And I don't actually have cool red here, so I'd have to use the same darker red diluted down for her lips. And she doesn't really wear lipstick either. She's a very minimal person. I think she wears a little bit of eyeliner. And I think I kind of put that in with the ink, so we'll just try to give her some palish lips here. And that teeny tiny area is not really picking up that teeny tiny bit of red. So let's make that red a little bit darker. And that's a little bit too dark, but I can go ahead and pick up some of it. Oh, I've got a scrub jay in my window. I love it when I've got scrub jays in my window. We just put out some new peanut suet and sunflower seeds, and boy, those scrub jays like that. So do the woodpeckers, unfortunately. They're mortal enemies, at least on our property. Okay, so I've got that.
Kat said, LOL swimsuit. Your major sister wears swimsuit while she's driving.
Yeah. She does know how to swim, actually, unlike me, but I doubt she'd be wearing a swimsuit driving back and not have changed into something else, even if she had decided to go swimming someplace. Okay, so let's see. I've got... Now she just looks like an angry person with very red lipstick. Alright, so I think the little eyes there, we're going to make them brown, because dark brown looks black is the color of our eyes. I have a cousin with green eyes, and I have another cousin with amber colored eyes, and another cousin with hazel eyes. So we do have different eye colors in our family, but my siblings have the same eye color as me, which is a dark brown. Did you make sure that woodpecker doesn't bully? Okay, I'm going to make her nose a little bit, add a little bit of light color to that, and just put it on the nose. And it makes the nose look red, but then when you dab it up, it gives it just a teeny bit of volume, even at that size. Just the teeniest bit of volume right there. Kind of like we did with Princess Lolly. Alright, now onto the little caps down there of the car and the wheels. And we can just probably plop those in real fast. Now it's funny, the Inktense that I have in the lid of this palette, the tin, it looks like it's dried pretty hard onto the tin, even though it's supposed to be liftable off of that area. So that's makes sense, because you know you can paint with this on fabric and other surfaces, but it is waterproof, so I guess it sort of ran out of its capacity to be resuscitated. Alright, so we've got the black here, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on the wheel. And you can choose to, I mean, wheels again have rubber, and so they're not super reflective, but what you could do for this, if you wanted to have a little bit of fun, is put a highlight near the inner side of it by just putting a ring of water here first before you painted the rest of the wheel, and then go back around. And it'll bleed into that ring of water, but it'll also leave a little bit of light area. I'm going to actually wet it down a bit more so it gives it a nice soft spread there. And then come back around. It's a little bit too spready. See, that's the thing about really tiny spaces, is that you need to mostly rescue that highlight with a little bit of gouache, and so that's what I always end up doing for really tiny areas, is it helps control the bleed better. You know, that's really what it comes down to. Is in an area like this where the bleed for the water is just the fractals, the way that it spreads, is more or less harder to control at this size, because you get past a particular size of tininess, and then your overwhelming water effects get in the way of what you're trying to render if you're trying to shade something, even if it's something really simple like this, in which case gouache can help control that. Because it's basically a mineral powder that's quite coarse in comparison, and quite thick, because you're using it as an opaque white, and it will settle down that spread of water a lot better than if you just decided to use it transparently. So in certain areas like that, even if you have a piece where you're doing most of it not transparent, you can definitely settle it down by doing some of it transparent and then the rest of it not transparent. Okay, there's my wheel. You could also continue off of the paper. You're going to cut it off anyway to make it a more natural curve. Don't feel like you actually have to stop right there. Okay, I think I'm happy with that wheel. At least from what I can see in the reflection. I can always go back and patch in more. And the little hubcap area over there is even tinier, and it tends to be like a silver, so I think we're going to try to make it more of that blue. So let's see if we can make that light blue show up right here. And I think the little hubcap areas that are the outside of it are actually black, so you'd want to do blue and then a little bit more of that black. So it's just a really tiny, tiny coloring in spaces. And you know, this is like a little gimmick painting. If you wanted to actually do this as not refrigerator magnets and as a gimmick to give somebody, then a better idea would be to make this bigger so you can actually have some shading and stuff in those areas. But for this, it's just a fun gimmick. Okay, so that's one wheel. And then let's do the blue on this side first so that we don't have to worry about coming back in and putting that in while this is all already has black everywhere else. And then now let's go ahead and do the black in the circle all around. And this time I'm not going to wet it, no water, because I saw that this paper has more of a spread on it as far as how the water spreads. So I'm just going to go straight in here with this gouache. I think it's turned a little bit too gray for me, so I'm going to get a little bit more white in the brush and rinse out that muddy gray. And then come back in and then just go along the edge of that Inktense with that white. And see how the control of that works so much better? There's more white that I was able to salvage as a result, right? Because I did that first and there's no wet paper. So that's what I always say about paper being wet versus it being dry if you're working this tiny, is that you don't really get to control as much if you are working with a wet paper at this size. So you have to sort of see what your needs are. Okay, so now I'm going to come back around, and so this is kind of what I was aiming for on the other side, which is the black, the gray, and then a little bit of the black again going around. And that black still has a lot of water in it, so it keeps bleeding out. Let's try to make it thicker and darker all the way around, and then plop that white in. But see how that white stops it from spreading as much. And you can come back in and add a bit more white over here again to give it more definition. Do you have any more questions or comments?
No, but you have a viewer who has no name saying, I was going to ask what these were going to be. Making magnets are a genius idea.
Yeah, we're going to make these into magnets, and they're going to be mounted on wood and turned into magnets for my sister, who's a doctor, and I just wanted to give her a little pick-me-up present by doing 4 little cartoonish doodles of her doing her things that she likes to do: gardening, road rage, in a jogging suit, and having an apple and peanut butter at work. So, so I think I'm going to go ahead and go on to the next one. I think that's good. I think the other thing I wanted to do maybe is add, like I said, a little bit more shading to maybe the skin tone, but I think instead of dwelling on that because it's so tiny, we can move across. But yeah, it just would be a nice thing to give to her for working full-time and putting herself at high risk and working with patients even now. Okay, so let's see. I think that's her with her little gardening. And she's only 2 years older than me, so she's not that much older than me. She's still, you know, we grew up, me and my brother's only 2 years younger than me, so we all were rather close. My mom had us basically all in a row, I think. Alright, so I've got her shades. I don't know what color shades my sister would wear, but I think we can make them some kind of nice girly color. I think we can make that shirt polka dots, and then we can make those blue jeans. We can make them blue, have a blue jean, and then maybe make the flowers a red so that they can harmonize with we can try to have some similar colors in each one to make them harmonize. And also, I think if you could pour me some more water in the blue cup that's down there, we can do the metallics afterward if we get to that. We might not get to the metallics, so you can leave that for right now. Let's do this first because otherwise I'll have too many water cups out, and then I'll definitely dip my brush into my tea. Okay, so I think I'm going to go with the blue jeans first. And again, we're going for very simple, bright flats, almost in a Mary Blair gouache style, but you can definitely do more texture or more shading on this if you are interested. These are, the end destination for these are just to become refrigerator magnets. So there's not going to be a huge amount of shading that I'm interested in doing here. But I'll do a little bit here just to show you that we can, at this size if we wanted to, make it so that there's a little bit of shading going down the center of those pants. And given that those pants then end up looking very white, you can always take a little bit of blue and spread it all over first so that you have a lighter blue as your background color, because otherwise your pants look like they're made out of spandex or something, right? You shouldn't have a really, really light, bright pop of white down the center if they're made out of denim, right? So you're not going to have that. So now I went and made that a bit darker in the center already, and that'll make it a more natural highlight. And then do the same thing on the other side. Give her a little bit of... And see how you can do that effect, and it looks more like watercolor when we're not using the white. If you're just using the white of the paper. When you use the white paint, it looks like gouache, because that's what gouache is. Gouache is just opaque watercolor. So you can use your Inktense as both watercolor and as gouache. In this case, I'm kind of doing it different ways in different places. So we've got that. I think I might make the little band area a bit darker too, just to show there's like a little bit of a crease here and there. It's just a little fun, tiny things that you can add in. Okay, so she got a little jeans on, and assuming she's got sneakers that are like a gold tannish color, but in this case I think we'll give her... She got lots of different kinds of sneakers. She's one of those people that has... She does a lot more working out and that kind of thing than I do. She's always been more athletic than me because I've always had health issues, so I have not been able to be athletic at all. So I think in this case, I might give her this nice yellow hat and then throw some ochre into it. So let's throw some ochre into that. And we'll think about her shoes last to see how they coordinate with the rest of it. But let's throw this yellow and ochre into her hat there. And again, not sure what color hat she actually has to work in the yard, but let's just assume she's got a little, you know, she's a little hayseed with a little hat which is made out of straw and everything. We can just do that. We can make it a bit more, let's see. I'm trying to think of what color I could make that would make it look a bit more close to a little brown streaks to it. I think that's what I've decided, is I can add a little bit of brown streaks to the hat, just as texture. I don't want it to be completely plain. It just makes it, it just doesn't matter if some of it's bleeding out. It just makes it look nice and artistic, texturized. There's lots of places where I do realistic work, all sorts of shading. It's nice to, every now and again, just to do this for fun and not to always be focused on how to do something really difficult, you know? That actually means something when you're painting, being able to enjoy your project a bit more if you're not as stressed out with the rendering. Not to say that that's not enjoyable in its own way, which is why I do it, but there's always time and place for things. Okay, so let me see. I think I tried to give her a dark green shirt in the other one. I think in this one, because she's gardening, maybe we can give her a light green shirt. I really like this color in the Inktense set, this yellow green. It's very, very cheerful. If you're ever not feeling good, I think you should just paint something with a lot of this color and it'll be very cheerful.
Kate wants to know if the paper dries quickly.
This paper is not getting super wet, and because it's thinner, it is going to dry quickly. So yes, it does dry quickly. I think given that it's a mixed paper and it's kind of it's some cellulose and some cotton, it's going to dry faster than a pure cotton. Cotton tends to hold on to water a bit better. I'll give her green gardening gloves too, because that's what she's wearing. I think she actually has roses, is what she likes to take care of, but I think she has other flowers too, so we'll just assume that she has that. And I think I'd like to give her polka dots on her shirt at some point, so that way she's got some polka dots going on there. Or maybe I'll make her look she's a real proper hayseed and give her some checks here, so some plaid. You know, those plaid shirts that people wear when they live in the country, stereotypically, like all the Sesame Street stereotypical country living people who have we watched a lot of Sesame Street at our house when we were growing up, so Fatima will get that reference. From what I recall, there used to be an old McDonald that was always being interviewed by Kermit as the reporter, and nothing was ever going right on that guy's farm. I don't know why he was still farming. I think he should have stopped farming a long time ago, given all the problems he had on his farm. But
He had
he's,
problems. I thought he just had animals, and the animals went.
no,
Quack, quack.
in the Sesame Street version, the farmer was always having problems. Like Kermit was always there interviewing him, and he always had some kind of problem going on, and it would lead to like some kind of learning thing, right? Like you'd go and count something, or you'd go and do something. But the guy was always stressed out, and things weren't going well ever. You know, there's always something going on that was making it so that the farm was not running well.
It's too bad.
You know, like that guy who used to play, what was his name? Don Music or something, whoever it was. I can't remember what his name was. The guy who's always playing songs wrong. He was obviously supposed to be like a composer, but he was always screwing up the songs and hitting his head on the piano. I mean, does nobody else remember that? That guy was always hitting his head on the piano, and I was always like, oh my god, that guy's gonna have brain problems. And I was a kid, and I knew you shouldn't be doing that to your head. But I think now the little scarf has got to be red, because again, if she's a proper country gal. She did move to Oklahoma, remember? So she lives in Oklahoma now because her husband's in the Air Force and he's stationed in Oklahoma. So Fatima's helping veterans at the hospital. That's her. All of her patients are veterans. So I think we should make sure we give her a proper Oklahoman feel there. And again, a little bit of the yellow ochre for the skin. I'm going to come back with the shadow color at some point later. Just want to get it all mapped in at some point. Yellow ochres, any of those earth colors, is a great quick way to get a skin color versus trying to mix an over vibrant skin color. And it already has a little bit of opacity to it too. So it really sits well on the paper. It makes it look like you've got sort of an opaque earthy mix sitting on your paper, you know, for the skin color. Can't go wrong with using the earth colors. I mean, all of those skin tones are great. And all those earth colors. And that's because we ourselves have such a sort of like, you know, it's a earthy clay look. You know, most mammals have those earthy colors, so it's their base skin tone. Alright, so we've got that, and I think that's all of the skin, and now I just have to give her a little bit of a lip again here. And again, I'm going to come back in probably and add in a little teeny highlight to the lip, and also do little examples of tiny shading to the different parts of the... I'm going to see if I can add a little bit of purple here, because I know my sister is not a fan of red lipstick. She either goes without, or she wears like one of those wine colors when she's dressed up, so she doesn't actually have red. I don't think she has a single pure red, so I think I'm better turning this into sort of a wine color. And I did that just by plopping in a little bit of that purple into it, so I think I'll do that on this side too. Because otherwise it's less, if it's meant to be her, little cartoon versions of her, I don't think it's not gonna read well if she never wears red lipstick, right? So let's go back over here and make this a little bit more winey colored. The problem is that this paper is kind of messed up in some of these places because I over-erased, so it has a further tendency to bleed than it actually would if I hadn't been messing the paper up by erasing so much. And that's just in that lip area. Everywhere else is pretty much okay, but that's because I really couldn't figure out if I wanted to make her have, you know, what kind of expression I was going to give her when she was road raging. And so, okay, so I've got that. I think that looks more like her to me, just with the... It's funny how a little thing like that can make a big difference, and that's part of the thing of doing caricatures and stuff too, is, you know, you have to have a few traits that look like the person, and if you get rid of all of them, then it just looks like a generic person. So part of that is remembering what the traits are, and in this case it would be, well, if she doesn't wear a red lip, then we should make sure not to give her one. Otherwise, when she's looking at it and somebody else is looking at it that knows her, they're gonna say, well, that's not really her. So I give her the hairstyle, the lip, and also different outfits that I would assume she's doing and things, you know, because like I said, I know she gardens, I know she works out and jogs in a fuller jogging suit, and I know she's got the little doctor's coat and everything, so those are pretty easy. And I think it's perfectly okay for a little teeny doodle caricature to play it up, right? Because it would be boring to just have an everyday outfit. Now, she's out there gardening in her sweats, that's fine, but it's not very interesting to paint, so it's perfectly fine to make up stuff and make it a bit more interesting. So it is just a little bit more cute in a little cartoon. So, I mean, that's why...
Do you think you'll be able to get your sister to dress up like this and do all these poses?
I don't know. Probably not. Fatima's not the kind of person that likes taking photos. I don't like taking photos either. Where I'm a proper introvert, but Fatima's actually an extrovert who I think likes taking photos, but she's not really good at posing for anything. Like, she doesn't take photos very much, is what I mean. Like, so probably not. The answer is no, probably not. Okay, so, but I think it would be fun if she did. That would be a lot of fun. I think I'm gonna make her shoes orange. No, actually, that orange we said looks too much like she's barefoot because it ends up diluting down to. So, what color should I make her shoes? I'll make the flowers red. But we can decide. Do you have any ideas for the shoes? Does anybody have any suggestions for the shoes?
You have no suggestions from the chat yet.
Okay. Well, in the meantime, I'm coloring these very red flowers.
Green, says Heather.
Okay, green. Green it is. Alright, so now she's got that, and then I can make a little bit of lighter shading into the shades here. So a little bit of gray and leaving a little bit of a highlight. So let's see if I can do that without getting it into that area too much. So there we go. And then I think I can make the rims of the shades to make it something interesting. But my sister's also not like me in that sense. She doesn't like colors. I wear a lot of colors. My sister does not wear colors very much, so we're making her very colorful for the sake of the magnets as far as the outfits go. But I'm going to give her these racing green shades, which I think is it's a nice dark color, so it doesn't look too light. It reads well as a shade color, but it's not something that I think she would have. Whereas I've actually got pink shades and polka dot shades and flower shades. I've got a lot of different sunglasses that are got all sorts of stuff all over them. Alright, I like the idea of making it the same color as that shirt, so put that kiwi green down. And we can use the darker green as the shading on that, the little teeny bit of shading. And I was going to sign on here. I did try in a few places, and then I erased it. It sort of was in this tiny little area, because these are only an inch and a half across. And they really end up looking like the signature was I was trying to put my signature there and nothing else, because that's how tiny this is. This is an inch and a half across. So I just thought maybe what I should do instead is put the signature on the back of the magnets. So that's what I'm going to do instead, is I'm just going to put the signature on the back of the magnets. There you go. She's got her little boots there. And the little rake can be a brown rake with the little silver handle at the bottom. So we're going to make that a light gray. Fade it to gray. And again, remember, this is going to be varnished, and so it's going to pick up every little detail of how we're doing this. So you want to try to make it exactly how you want it, because you can't fix it once we put the varnish over the top of it. I'm going to put that acrylic seal gloss varnish that's dimensional. Do I have anything that I can show as an example as to how it's going to end up? I think I gave that brooch away just recently. So I already mailed my brooch off to the friend who was sick with the surgery that I made that little painted brooch for. So that's no longer here. I'm gonna have to think of something else that I can share so we can see what a finished example looks like. But so we've got that. I think Kat said purple boots. I think we could give her purple sneakers in this one, because that way we can utilize the purple if she said purple and we didn't get to use it. Didn't somebody say purple boots?
Yes, purple, and someone else said red.
Red? Okay. So let's give her red shoes in this one so everybody gets to have their vote. So I'll go ahead and plop that in before I forget, right here. I think wearing red at the doctor's office, where you have to wear all the other clothes are really completely formal, and you're wearing the doctor's coat, I think that's a nice little pop of personality. Again, I don't think it's something that my sister would do. It'd be something that I do. I'm very artistic in my clothes and jewelry, so I try to put I wear a lot of jewelry that I make myself, I wear a lot of clothes that I make myself, and I end up embellishing things even if I do buy them or I just make stuff, so I end up having a lot of different, fun. And I used to wear just black and all through high school, so it was very goth and black with a lot of silver and studs and everything, so I wore nothing but black and silver for years and years in high school, and also through a lot of college, and then I just, for some reason, because my artistic side decided to show up in my clothes when I started to make the jewelry and sew stuff, and so I sort of took over from there. which is nice. It's nice not to have just not wearing black, you know. Black is beautiful, but it's not the only color out there for clothes. Okay, so let's see with these sneakers. And it's a really nice color for sneakers, actually. Wouldn't you love to have sneakers this color? This, like, sort of plum aubergine color. I would love to have sneakers this color. I used to have purple boots, but I think they wore out. I no longer have them. I used to have magenta boots, too. I wear a lot of ankle boots. If you have hypermobility like I do, then it actually helps your ankle from dislocating. So I actually wear a lot of ankle boots, so I've got a lot of pretty ankle boots versus wearing a lot of heels and flats and stuff because my really over flexible joints can't really support those for very long if I'm walking, so I wear a lot of ankle boots. Okay, so that's that part of it. I think I might make the bottom tread part of it and the top tread part of it a little bit more fun. So let's make the top part more of a red violet.
All the colors in my head says I had burgundy velvet chunky loafers in high school, LOL, and pink plastic sneakers.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun. I used to have clear plastic jelly shoes when I was in high school. It was fun. I mean, it wasn't the only pair. Obviously, you couldn't wear that with everything, but it was still fun.
Brian says I have a lot of tennis shoes. No heels for this zebra either.
Yeah, I've got a lot of shoes that are comfortable, that can work. I think I have one leftover pair of heels in brown, and they're only a small heel, and same thing for one in black, and I only wear them for like if I have to go to a formal event and don't have to walk or move very much, and they're still very comfortable in comparison to a lot of people's heels are only like half an inch or 3/4 of an inch. And I can't wear them very much at all. I can hardly wear them. Okay, so see how I managed to do a little bit of the shading on the boots there, on the little sneakers, or trainers, as you'd call them in the UK. When I was in the UK, they called them trainers. So I think I'm going to go ahead and... I think trainers a better name than sneakers, because at least trainers is implying you're being athletic with them, whereas sneakers is almost like, what are you up to, man? What are you going to do?
You're a thief.
Right, what are you trying to do? Okay, so let's see. I think I'm going to go ahead and quickly swatch
Kat
in.
says she had a school uniform, black shoes or joggers.
Oh, how cute. I think a school uniform would have solved a lot of problems at our high school. I know we would have been really bored as to what people were wearing and stuff, but at least it keeps people dressed in the dress code, and also you don't have to like think about what you're going to wear every day. You just sort of wear the same thing. I think that would make it easier in some ways, but yeah, it definitely stifles your individuality. I had a few outfits in high school and in college, actually, that looked like they were a school uniform because I liked the plaid skirt and the little dress shirt type thingies that they wore at school. So every now and again, I'd wear one of those sort of like fake schoolgirl uniform outfits. That was fun. There's a lot of weird, fun things you do in high school and college that you're kind of like later thinking on. I'm not going to really do that anymore. I mean, you can't really do that now. It looks stupid. Okay, alright, so I've got... managed to get all the flesh in fast. And then so now I'm going to go ahead and do, like I said, the shadows later. See how the flesh didn't even settle over there right by the mouth? That's because, again, the paper's all torn up. So that's what happens when you screw up your paper. And I think I'm also going to do that same thing I was saying about the black hair. So that way we can do the fun part later. And she's got like a heart-shaped face. So I have an oval-shaped face. And one of the things that you recognize when you're an artist and you try to do a lot of things that have likenesses and try to do stuff realistically is you pay attention to people's features and face shapes and stuff. And so one of the things I noticed, you know, many, many years ago, like probably all the way back when I was like 14, was that my sister Fatima has a heart-shaped face and I have an oval face. And so whenever I draw little caricatures of her and she gets a little heart-shaped face, and of course the caricatures of me would have an oval face. And face shape, even for a really tiny thing like this, makes a big difference. Like to me, this, because of the haircut and the face shape And the fact that she's wearing that wine-colored lipstick, to me this reads very much as my sister. And those are things that you would know as a personal, you know, if you knew her. And so again, those are the kind of things, if you're making a little quick doodle of a family member, it doesn't have to take very much. You just have to get a few key features that would sort of overlap into a consciousness of somebody who knew them and say, oh yeah, they have that haircut, they have that face shape, they have, you know, I don't know, a certain t-shirt that they wear all the time or something like that. You know, you just have to pick up things like that, or a way of standing. There's lots of different ways to help implement somebody into a character form on paper, whether it's simple or realistic. I actually have painted my sister realistically as well, or semi-realistically, and she makes a beautiful subject to paint. And one of the reasons I like to use, of course, friends and family members is their free references, and I use myself a lot too for that reason, is that I can have myself as a reference around when there's no other reference, and you know, and you don't have to pay a model, and that can become very, very expensive if you are doing realistic work, is to constantly sit around and pay a model. And I actually wish I had more opportunity to use my brother and my sister as references, but my sister now lives in a different state, and my brother lives in Southern California, and I'm in Northern California, so I can't really use them very much, but it would be nice if I could, if they were living nearby, to use them more. Okay, so now that I've gotten all that stuff done, and I think we'll go back in and put the lips in last, I think we'll just color the outfits first. This is, like I said, going pretty fast. I have a little bit of a quandary with this set, how to mix the stupid pink for the jogging suit, because she actually has a very sort of like bubblegum pink jogging suit that I saw for years, but this set does not have a cool clean red, and it also does not have a cool clean purple, so I can't do that either way. So I'll show you what I mean. This is actually a good lesson for color mixing, is suppose I try to turn this red, let's do it out here, into a pink. I could dilute it, and you see how it's turning kind of into a pink, but it still kind of looks like a warmer red, especially when you darken it up. It looks most like, you know, like a Santa Claus primary, almost red on the warmish side. And now if I added white to it, we could probably turn this into a pink. So I think I might have to do that. And that gives me a nice, you know, kind of bubblegum pink. It's actually still a little bit warmer. So it's a little bit away from bubblegum and more towards kind of like the color that in textbooks they color gums or tongues and stuff. You know, that sort of warmish pink color, but not quite a cooler bubble gum pink color. And if I did the purple and added white to that, let's see what happens to that. You know, if I choose that, try not to get into little circles there. Let's add white to that, and that just turns into a smoky, misty purple. If I mix both of those together, because it's a very low intensity purple, it just starts to turn into a salmon. So that's not going to work. So I can go with the red and add the white in it, but I think the purple will have to stay out. I can't really cool that red down with that purple to make it more pink, because that purple is very low intensity. So I guess we'll just have to use the red with the, I mean, I could always use, of course, the watercolor gouache that I also have out sitting around, but for the purposes of this and staying within a limited palette, let's try doing it the way of pink via the red with a little bit of white in it. So let's see how that goes. And I'll mix it on the paper again, so I don't have to have a lot of different kinds of colors on my palette. So I know that's might seem dumb, but blotching in a little bit of white there and then adding in the red on top of it, in some ways it's easier than just having a huge amount of tints on your actual palette when you're sort of and I got rid of it. It's actually my brother Omar. He's also still working full-time too. It's funny how we get to work from home, because you do stuff on a computer and I do stuff, a lot of it, that can be shifted onto online, but some people just have to go out still for their jobs. So again, let's try to respect those people and help them do their jobs without getting more sick. My brother's a structural engineer, so he builds does stuff like giant airplane hangars and bridges and that kind of thing, so he does a lot of stuff like that. I nearly became a structural engineer because I remember I studied physics, so I don't think I would have chosen structural engineering. I think I would have chosen probably electrical engineering because I really loved, or something to do with optics and lasers because those are the things I liked in college when I was studying physics. And all interesting to all of the fields with the art and the history. I've always said that, which is that if you see the connections, there's actually a lot of connections there. So I gave her the waistband a little bit darker, the red, so you can give it a little bit more contrast. Do the same thing on the top there. And in this tiny space, it's kind of better to solidify and figure out your highlights first almost, you know, before you actually put the darker color down. Still going from dark to from light to dark, actually, as a result of that. And it's just because the space is so tight that it ends up serving you better to do it that way. And you don't have to, of course, do it that way. You can come back with your highlights later. I've said this to people before, which is that the method and the order of how you paint things, don't try to memorize that. You're probably going to end up changing that for different paintings. And it's not going to be the same process each time. Even if you were doing the same painting a second time on a different day, you might do it a completely different way. Even if you were the same person doing the same painting, just based on your mood that day, or maybe you learned a different technique, or maybe it just looks different to you and you want to approach it in a different way. So order of how you do a process is important for certain techniques, like, you know, grisaille and such, but for everything else, you know, it's kind of like do it how you feel like doing it that day, and not necessarily in a particular order of I need to put this color down first or that color down first. And this kind of stuff, of course, that doesn't have an underpainting and doesn't have a lot of planning and doesn't have a lot of shading, is some of the easiest stuff that you can do. And given that this is easy, I know for my channel this is going to have like almost no views, because on my channel, unless I do something difficult, it doesn't really get a lot of views. I think it's what people expect of me, so for some reason I just don't get a lot of views whenever I do something really simple. Even though this kind of stuff is really fun for me to do every now and again, it's just a lot of people won't watch it as much.
Kat says it's a good pink.
It's a good pink? Yeah. Well, that's good. Having that white there really helps. And definitely going to have to re-ink some of those lines here because they've been covered up by that gouache. And I'm going to take that zipper now and, oh wait, hold on, I think the little hoodie part didn't get quite as pink as I liked. It got a little bit too white. So let's add a little bit more. Did a little bit of punch there. Okay, and get a little bit more of that gray. Put it in for the zipper area. And just get a little bit more wet. And this Inktense dries really powdery. It's a bit more stubborn on the metal to re-wet than, like I said, some of the watercolors and gouaches that I've used. So I guess that makes sense because it's a waterproof medium. So
AD is here. She said waving hello. Thanks for another live stream.
oh, hi. So glad to see you here. And hopefully see you in the class tomorrow, too. I was saying if it's the few people who are going to be in the class tomorrow as well, that I'm going to be sending the live stream link out at 11:30 tomorrow, just in case anybody needs help getting on. And if anybody that's in the class wants to help other people get on, let me know, and I will provide your email address in my link email as well. If you are interested in helping me get some of the older people that are going to have a harder time finding links or whatnot, you know, if you're interested in doing that, then just tell me it's okay to appreciate the people who are going to show up and ask questions and help me, you know, keep that lively, and also really appreciate just having students and people there that I know. It's going to make it a lot of fun, so thanks for everybody who signed up. Okay, I think I'm going to get that up there.
AD says yes, we'll be there for tomorrow's class.
really excited about that. Like I said, I was showing the stack of notes and wheels at the beginning of all the stuff that I was prepping for that class, so really excited about doing that. And it looks like we're moving quite fast on these little doodles of my sister. I hope she likes them. I know she likes fridge magnets, and she's a doctor, so maybe she has some place to hang them up at work too, but I just wanted to, again, give her a little thank you for working as hard as she's working with all of the patients and everything, even now into the virus, and who, you know, continue to work because they've taken an oath that they're gonna help people. Okay, so I've got that done. And could you open that door right there and give me that micron? I'm going to get some of these lines back because it looks like we're going to be able to have the time to get some of these lines back. Yeah, that micron. So I used this micron PN, which is the archival waterproof ink, to ink this. And I like it because it has that fiber tip, which I always share that I like it better than the metal tip because you can use it at not just a straight angle. And I'm going to go ahead and finish doing her coat and stuff over here, and I still got to do a little bit of get the brown on her, the highlight that I want. And if you lose that highlight, you can come back with the gel pen. So I'm doing a pretty good job of that so far, but say like that highlight on the left here is not as big as I want it, I can go and dot that in with the gel pen and it gives you a little bit of that highlight back. And so that's just a fun, nice thing. Okay. Alright, so I've got that, and I'm going to go ahead and color in this nice little iPad that she's got. I think actually her iPad's broken. She has to get another one. But she always has her little iPad that she's looking up patient stuff on and everything. And so I gave her that in under one arm. And the screen there can be a lighter variation of that color. Just very quick. And let's see, the button stays white. And I think actually the outside of that would have stayed white too. It's actually, I think, the same coloring as an iPhone. So I think I might have gotten that mixed up. So you can go back in and color that white with a gel pen once that's dried off. And then for her coat, I'll give it light blue shadows like we did with the car. But in this case, we're going to make it more watercolory and not gouache. So like we did the car, very opaque. So let's go ahead and do that over here. Went down the coat and just add a little bit of highlights down both sides, and it gives you a nice white coat shadow. And you don't want to overdo that blue because it does end up looking like a blue coat. See that car that looks like a rather blue car instead of a white car with blue shadows, and you can blame that a little bit on the paper being beat up, but a large part of it is like, you know, just have to think a bit more carefully about how you're putting your colors down with our white. So I think we sort of in our heads know that this is supposed to be a white coat, where over there you're thinking it could be a light blue car. And my assumption is she wears a nice little pair of slacks or something like that underneath her doctor's coat if she's wearing a different outfit. So I think I'll give her a different colored set of slacks here. So I'm trying to see what we want to do here for the slacks. I think if it has red, nope, we already got the shoes, not orange. Yellow, not, we've already done a lot of green. So maybe, what color do you think I should make her pants? Yeah.
Probably blue jeans color.
I don't think she's gonna wear
Jeans all the time.
I don't think she's gonna wear blue jeans to work with.
Scrubs, they're kind of a light blue.
Okay. Let's see, I'll paint that apple red first, cause purple? Okay, Cat says purple. Just add a little bit more red to that too. Okay, so you have to tell me what anybody might be saying about. I think I'm going to choose purple. Purple for the
Healthcare
pants.
professionals deserve all of our love and thanks from AD.
Yeah, they're...
And then AD also said gray or black slacks. And John Matthias says hello.
Hi, John. So nice to see you here. I think I'll do a light colored purple and then darken it up. Alright, and that's such a low intensity purple that I might actually read as that. Didn't somebody say gray too, right? Like gray or black? That's like a nice low intensity purple, so it might actually read as a... You know, certain dyes we use for fabric anyway, they fade to purple or black, or blue anyway, so as a result of that, it's actually a nice color to put in, because it sort of makes it look like it could be any of those colors. And I think I'm going to make the stem that is usually a darker green stems, but in order to make it really pop on such a small area, I'll go for that kiwi green again. And that's there, and I think at this point we just have to brush up the lines and then do the metallic background, and then I think we're pretty much done. And then, like I said, I was going to cut these out, mount them on wood, glue magnets to the back, and then she'll have some refrigerator magnets. And, oh wait, I forgot to color that peanut butter. So the peanut butter, I think, is going to be a mix of this ochre and brown color.
I think it should be peanut colored, probably.
Yeah, peanut colored. I don't know, that doesn't look like a very attractive color on that stick. I know she works at a hospital, so maybe that's not the best idea to put that on the stick. Do you see what it looks like?
I think it's fine.
Yeah. It makes it look like she's carrying a dirty stick around. But who knows what kind of hospital material on it. But I'm gonna color the outside of the of the live stream. I'm just devolving into elementary school humor now. Alright, so I went back and colored that that little iPad outside a little bit of a lighter color. And okay, I think it's hopefully coming back. Okay. So, okay, I think it's come back. Yeah, that was a long time buffering. No fun. Okay, I think we lost most of the people.
We're down to 5.
Yeah, we lost a lot of people.
One thumbs down.
It's not my fault.
It always has to be one.
Can't make it buffer or not buffer. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna finish these up, and then after that we can call it a day. And so let's see. So for these lines that sort of got covered up by the gouache, you can go back, and it's a little bit hard to draw in there with a really fine tip and add that. And it also depends on whether or not you're okay with, messing around with that. If you want to leave it at a lighter color, then, just go ahead and leave it at a lighter color. But I think for me, the car, I'm less worried about, bringing back. I think what I'm interested in is just doing the jogging suit stripes and stuff that got lost and re-inking those. And then I think after that we should be pretty much good to go. And what I'm going to do with these, because I'm not going to show the rest of that process on here, but what I'm going to do with these is take the things, cut them out, put metallic mica in the background, and then after that go ahead and glue them down onto wood blanks, varnish them front and back, and then add magnets to the back, and then she'll have a nice set of refrigerator magnets that are little cartoons of her doing the things that I know her to do all the time, which is doing her little working out, jogging thing, her gardening stuff in her yard, the road rage, and also eating apples and peanut butter at the hospital. So just a nice, fun, quick thing to do for my sister as a little thank you. I've been thinking of her a lot the past week and two, because I know how she has to work at the hospital and do all this stuff that, like I said, a lot of us are at home, and, she still has to be out and do all that stuff, so. Alright, I've got that, and I think there's any other lines that need terrible amounts of, I kind of like how that line got lost there and over there, so I think I might leave that. And I think that even though this reads kind of like a bluish silver car, I think I kind of like that look better than a white car. She did used to have a silver echo, right? So
you're
I think
basically doing her a favor.
yeah. So I'm just telling her it's okay to have that as a car. So I can do the start doing the mica in the background real quick for one of them, just so. Or do you want to just call it quits now? I don't know. I'll just show the mica. How about that? I'll just show what I'm doing, so you can go ahead and open that drawer and give me that pen, not that box, the box next to it. In the front. In the front, I'm pointing at it. Yeah, that box. And I'm going to use them in the background, so I'm going to choose different colors in the background and do that. And, you know, these are only 1.5 inches wide. So if we are going to make them bigger, then you could do like a nice realistic portrait, you know, as an homage to, you know, a sibling or a family member. But if it's something this tiny, then it's kind of cute to do something humorous and sort of lighten the mood and do something like that. So that's why I did that. But yeah, I'm going to choose some of these colors to do the background in. And I'm not going to burden people with watching that with the stream and the buffering and everything. So I think it was great to see everybody to do this. Yeah, my sister's a doctor, and I'm so proud of her for doing this, and I just hope she stays safe and healthy. So are there any other comments? And I wanted to mention again to everybody that there's 3 live streams that I'm having coming up on the next 3 Saturdays to do with the color theory class that I'll be teaching is going to be tomorrow. And I'm going to have 2 more Saturdays after that with a grisaille underpainting, and then the Saturday after that is 5 ways to draw anything facial features. Doing that through the Santa Cruz Art League for, you know, a good job for, you know, anybody who wants to sign up. I really appreciate that, and it would help the Art League. And I also feel like if you want to, you could please leave a comment on the stream in the comment section, because usually people leave work in the, you know, do a lot of commenting in the chat box, but they don't do that with the comment section, and then it looks like people don't have any comments. So just go ahead, or they, you know, there's half as many. So just do that. Make sure you remember to do that once it pops up on the actual website, if you can remember to. And if you don't, that's okay too. All right, so it was great to see everybody. Thanks so much for joining me, and I will post the finished pieces on Instagram, or at least on YouTube, or show them in a video to see what they look like, and also the finished little magnets and everything. I'll show them to everybody. But I really appreciated everybody who showed up tonight, and wishing you all epic art adventures, and stay safe and